Welcome, I'm Bill Wake. We're here working on a program to compare tunes for Similarity, and what we're up to now is working on the pipeline. So we let you have a source and a bunch of transformations and a sync, and now we want to make that pipeline not repeat the whole transformation every time, but only the stages that have changed or that will change. So we've started on that process, and we'll continue today. I hope we finish today. All right, so what this boiled down to is our pipeline used to have things that said translate or transform, and we've broken that apart. Let's see. What was that keystroke? Nope. Nope. Running out of options. View. No. What is that? Is it a window thing? Navigate. I got to get this thing right. Control Command up arrow. Okay, let's try that. Here we go. Okay. Do I have my keystrokes turned on? Yeah. Okay. So I want to, here's our basic process. So before, well, we get a packet, which is our set of tunes. From the source, it creates it, and then we run each one through. First, we do set input to the previous packet, and then we get transform, gives us the new packet and the new result. Okay, so it basically repeats all the transforms, and then the sync consumes it. We split this was one stage, we split it in two. And the reason is, well, I think the act of getting input is different than the act of deciding what the transformation is. And in our case, with the clustering we're doing, when you change the input, we need to change the cluster, but the output doesn't change until you select different nodes. So there's a sort of split in those steps. And I don't know, we don't really use this in any sequence other than this, though. So I'm not sure that's significant in a way. But we are set input mostly can decide if it's the same input and not have us not trigger it, I guess. Yeah, I'm not sure we're perfect there, but that's the direction we're moving anyway. And our tests just ran, just before we came on, and I think we're ready to get into it. Let's start with a run. So end of the day yesterday, we started running it, and it didn't look quite right. But we'll see what we got. Okay, so I loaded a file that should change it, and it should cause the pipeline to draw with the new set of, this is the stuff it just read. Okay, now if I do cluster, okay, that takes that same list of 39 and it clusters them, and it selects the best cluster or one of the best clusters, and that's the only things in the output. We should be able to get any arbitrary amount in our output. Okay, so let's leave this with whatever, 2, 4, 5 selected items. Okay, now nothing. We shouldn't have needed to recluster when we did that. Okay, I'm not sure that's the way it's working, but let's see a change. All right, so I'm going to load a different file. Now that looks all right. It found the new file, the new stuff. It clustered the 5 entries. It found the 2 old Joe Clarks were the closest, and it started with those 2 selected. Now I think if that does not work though. So something is not carrying through. Now I don't know if it's an issue of, well, what we did so far was we focused on the input. So if the input changes, the thing should change, and that did happen. But we don't have anything that detects the changing selection or other editable things like our filter or quantizer. Okay, so now we did get a new view, so that tells me that this file input produced a new output, and the cluster view changed to reflect that. So that part's good. Okay. Cluster selection does not trigger. That's right. So selecting these nodes no longer yeah, that should force a new UUID in the packet that's going through the rest of it. And we think it doesn't, and we're quite right about that. So let's see. Also, yesterday we tested this process with test stages, but I really do think we need tests on each individual stage, or at least tests on a sequence of stages and maybe some individual stages. All right. So the one for that is cluster stage. I don't see it here. Cluster stage. Okay. Right. So the set input controls, well, actually, output ID. Okay, we're saving this cluster ID. I don't think we're doing anything with it, so maybe we should do a little cleanup first. Cluster ID. Yeah, that's well, let's go to the parent. Okay. If current input not equal input ID, then current input equals input, output ID changes. Let me close the tabs to the right and get cluster stage back. Okay. I hate to repeat this test. That tells me I'm not quite got what I want here. Okay, so transform. Here's set input on our thing. Okay, so this is the case when we need to do new work. Okay, and current input. Okay, let's take this one out. Okay, it should break somebody. Okay, right. Current input equals input. That's really the parent job. Okay, so let's try and go the right way. Well, somehow all this stuff that was in the inside should be up here. And I guess none of it should be in this part. All right. So we're trying to do the same thing we're doing. Current input equals input. Where's current input? Well, okay, that's going to be done by the parent. Okay, so we don't need to do that. We don't have saved cluster ID. That's owned by the parent. However, we will do this. So we'll call super set input to input. And then create the new matrix, set the cluster, and set the initial selection. Okay, so none of that can be done. Where's set initial? Oh, here we go. Yeah, none of that can be done by the parent. All right, and I also want to get this. I want to say, if you're going to do this, you just do it. And let's make this know the difference. If cluster is not nil, okay, then we found one. We should set it. All right, set the input. Let's break that up a little. Proximity matrix dot clustered. Okay. All right, that should pass all the tests still. Okay. I think I've caught more than one change here. Oh, I did more. Okay. Off camera yesterday, we had this optional argument tunes that could default to empty. I did make that default. Tunes to empty array. And then we modified cluster stage to use transform dot set input. Okay, I don't like to mix and match, but I'll trust it. All right, now, oops. Well, when that's done, all right. So I think, right, the difference here is we got selected elements. Well, I think we can set up a test that if we get the same input and we select some elements, that this thing will not trigger a new output ID. And that'll demonstrate why we have the problem we have. Okay, so cluster stage tests, right? Okay. And I'll take a bit of this and see. We may not need it all. Okay, so we're going to test that change in selection changes output ID. All right, so we got a stage, we got our tunes. I guess that's all right. Yeah. Okay, we'll set the input. Let's set these. Oh no, actually this is close to what we want. Only send selected nodes through. Well, you know, I could get. What's output 1? That's a packet. Okay, I think we'll combine this test. It's sort of, it really is testing the same process. Okay, so test, let's say test sends selected nodes through with updated ID. Okay, so you send this packet through, we set the input, we get the output, okay, and then so let this be original ID. Well, we got output 1 sitting around here. I guess that's good enough. Okay, so XCT assert not equal. All right, we say output 1.id should not be output 2.id. Okay, so we selected, if I could spell, we selected, we took whatever the default selection is, which is two things, the two best matches, and then got output 1, and then we reset the selection to something else. That should cause a new node number or ID number to be in our output packet. And we did not, I don't think we'll get that. Okay, but we do get the different number of things. So I think everything's going to pass up to 75, and then 77 is going to say, wait a minute, these two things have the same output ID. Okay, because they got the same input. We are passing packet in, not changing anything. All right, so let's run this test. I think this new line should fail. How we fix it, I'm not as sure. I don't know if there's some interaction there. Okay, there's the failure. We got 504.26b. Okay, we said they should be not equal, but they are equal. So it did not write new output ID. And the reason is it only resets that input, or it only resets the output ID when the input changes, but the input did not change. And so it did not reset that output ID. But what we want to happen is if somebody changes the selection, we want to change that output ID. Okay, so it's a parent field. All right, and now I don't know. I know it's get and set. I'm not quite sure if you can do it when you've got a published on there. Okay, so yeah, we're going to do this kind of thing. It shouldn't, the get shouldn't matter. I don't know if we have to declare it or not, but the set's going to matter. And I think we can, I don't know, I hope we can initialize it like this. All right, but we can say set. All right, and when you set, I think it's value, get gets that origin. Oh, new center is the incoming proposed value. Okay, so new selection, right? And then we're gonna affect. Well, they're affecting origin. I don't know if I have to have a separate backing field or not. Must also have a getter. Okay. Property wrapper cannot be applied to a computer. Yeah, so that's what I was afraid of. Let's change that with a method. Oh, we do. Okay, I think this is how people call it. Public get. Datagram view calls that to do the work. Okay, when it taps. Good. All right. So not only do we want to change the selection, but we want to change the, what do we call it, output ID? Output ID, yeah. Output ID equals UID. Yeah, good point. Let's comment that a moment. Yeah, this actually we should make that. Let's make it private set. I think that's public get. Okay, and then that should have a build problem, I think, for the tests. Yeah. Let's run the tests. No? Okay. Well, the tests, what's stage dot set? How weird. Set selection did not show up there. What stage? It should be a cluster stage. Okay. Set. Oh, there it is. Okay. I might be able to get by with this. It should be able to infer that it's a select set. Okay, and this should still fail because I commented out that line. Okay, there we go. I don't know why that didn't. I don't know why it compiled before. Okay. Now run tests. Should still get a failure on that one line. Okay. Good. All right. Now comment this back. Uncomment. All right. And now selection changes it. Nobody else needs to. Transform does not. Okay. All right. Let's make a manual test just to be careful. Okay, so we open one file, add the clustering, selection works, switch files, the selection reset, that looks fine, but now this should trigger downstream changes. Oh, okay. I wonder if it's an order thing. Let's do that. Because the order, right, it's going to matter because it publishes when that change comes, which triggers updates and stuff. But we haven't set the ID yet. So let's make sure this still passes and we'll rerun manually. I believe I am. But that is a good question. All right, we need to double check that. I think we must be though, because we were getting changes on selection with the first file. So that one was acting right. Open no scaling, get the cluster. It's only got 2 elements. Let's select a bunch of elements. They select it back down to a couple. There. So it works right there. I think it's only after we update. This looks good so far. This should change. It does not. Okay, am I running the pipeline? Good question. Let's see. So dendogram view. Okay, there's still stuff in there I'm not fond of. All right, where was that target? On tap. Okay, so that should call stage.setSelection. Let me see where that. The output thing. Let's see. It's all a little obscure, the trigger for it. Okay, so let's make sure. His parent is cluster view. Right, on change of selected elements. So this triggers the update of the pipeline. So settings changed. I don't know that this is all ideal, and maybe we can get rid of that, but when you change selected elements, settings change gets called, which is this environment object, which our I forget the name of it even, but our outer view is triggering on that. Is it pipeline view? Who has that? Content view? Yeah, their settings changed. So content view owns that settings change thing. He makes it available as an environment object. All right, let's see who references this. It's too local. Let's find it as text. Okay, all these input views. There should be another view. Whole body. Yeah, there it is. Okay, so the whole body is kind of the outer view that contains the whole pipeline. And it has a trigger here that if settings changed, basically is true, it says run the pipeline process and clear the flag. $0 is the value of settings changed. Okay, so I believe it's doing that. I might. So I want to put a. Let's put a print in here. Okay. I don't know. I hate being a bit manual on that, but there's enough interaction. So enough of this is going on at the view level that we're not directly monitoring. That I think that will give us the assurance we want, at least give us some flavor of it. I don't know if we can tell enough. Okay. So we should see at least one pipeline ran. Okay. That was that one. Cluster should trigger another one. Okay. There's two. Changing it should trigger another one. Okay. And then this should trigger another one. Okay, that would be 3. Change action tried to update multiple times per frame. Maybe having something going on there. I don't know. Okay, now this one, let's see if I can frame this so I can see it change. We expect it to run, and it does not. All right, if I open the original file, I don't know if this information. Okay, well, it's not triggering it. That's clear. Whether this is problematic, I don't know. If that's a problem, I really don't know what's going on. More than one animation taking place. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I'm not even doing animations really. I can turn off the window. That sounds wrong. Yeah, also encountered this problem with it. I vaguely remember it being marked off as an Apple problem, Mac OS problem, a not a problem we have. Okay, there's another person doing Python with it. Bug in Mac OS Ventura. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay, so I'm not going to take that part as a problem, but this is somewhat, I don't know, not a good sign to me, but may not be a problem. Well, we got everything identifiable. Okay, I don't. I guess I want to. Yeah. Yeah, I guess that's changing in the same thing. Maybe that is causing that. Yeah, I mean, it shouldn't, I mean, it's not an infinite loop or anything, so I don't think it's, anything's resetting it to true after that false. But on the other hand, I don't think I should need that quite the way we're using it. But all right, so let's put a breakpoint. I think we're still like this doesn't change anything, so we should see set selection being called. I think. All right, that should happen there. Okay. Oh, but that should change. Wait, where's transform stage? Where's that environment variable? I think it's up to us to say that changed. It's not running the pipeline. We can see that. Let's get another. Okay, these guys. Content view. Okay, he's got the settings change state object, and that's passed in. Anybody can access it. How do our stages trigger that though? He's got that one. Maybe it's missing it. Cluster, where's cluster view? Okay, this thing knows it. Does he use it? Unchange. Okay. Yeah, he's monitoring that. Can we break in here? Okay, so we'll change our selection again. Right. We change new selection. I guess let's print selection. Selected elements 1, 3, 5, 4, 6. New selection. Bigger. Okay, selects a lot more, so that should trigger the change. Let's see if we get called. There we are. Okay. So dendrogram view will trigger a settings changed event. All right, let's go back up to content view. No, whole body. Okay. We'll continue. That seems weird. Settings changed equals true. Well, let's get a whole body again. Okay. Okay. Open the big one. Continue. Change the cluster. Okay. All right. Open a new file. I think that's coming from each stage, maybe. All right, now change this. Okay, we'll continue here. It only changes true, so now why did that not catch that? Why did it update multiple times? On change called with false. Okay, well, false says don't update me, so something didn't update. But how did it happen without that? I don't know. Okay. So stage.selected elements. Okay. Bad access. I don't know if that's a debugger problem or a real problem. Okay. Is it the cluster view? Okay, let's go back to dendrogram view. It has that stage set connector.element IDs. Let's make sure the stuff going on is what we think it is. All right, continue. Okay, I'm pulling out something here. Trap. Okay. Well, let's run again. Yeah, I'm puzzled. All right. So here we are making it true. I guess I haven't done anything yet. Okay. Open a file. Okay. Cluster. On change. Call it false. Okay. Right. Now we want to open the new one. Okay. That causes a change. Okay. Pipeline ran. Okay. Now, that's weird. On change called with false. Okay. All right. Now, if I click this, I've just got 2 selected. I expect to get 3 selected. All right. So stage selection. Let's look at connector element IDs. Should have 4 elements in it. Is that right? I don't remember where I clicked. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 elements. Is that right? Okay. Yeah. Okay, so we'll continue. Now we changed this, so I expect that to say it's true. Now, why it's coming back a second time? As far as I know, we only have 1 cluster view. Sometimes it's a little bit of a debug artifact, but this is very suspicious. Okay. Settings changed. Changed. It's true. Okay. The only way it gets false is in that one method. So we'll continue. Setting changed equals true. It's like somebody's not picking up on that. Okay. So I guess there's 2 things I can worry about. One is, does my task capture what's supposed to happen? Well, I think it captured, I think we've tested the side that should update, but we haven't tested the side that should not update. Test retain selection if we're transforming the same packet. That's the input side. No, I don't even think that should need to be there. Transforming the same package. Right. I kind of think, I don't think that's even needed. Apparently it is. Retain selection We'll start it off empty. Okay. Maybe that's legit. Let me move this up. No. Okay, I'm going to, I want the flipped test of this. I want to know what happens if I didn't do that set selection there, and I send the same packet through, then that should be the same output. There's a lot of wordiness to this test, and that bugs me a bit. All right, but we set input packet 1, we get the output. I'm going to take this out. Set input to the packet stage.transform. They should be the same. Okay, because nothing should have reset its output ID. Okay. I hope this passes. I don't know if it will. I mean, that would be a sign for us if it doesn't. Okay. That's correct. It should be 2. We didn't change any selection. Okay. All right, that's going to pass then. Okay. I think all tests are passing. I'm still not happy on the run time of it, but I'm sorry, the view, the actual run. Check that cluster stage produces same output for same input with no selection change. Okay. All right. Well, I need to take a break. It's going to be a little longer. It's going to be like maybe 10 minutes instead of the usual 3 or 4 or 5. But we'll come back and maybe we'll switch to a different stage and see what kind of problem we have. If filter stage or quantizer stage has this same problem, because they're simpler, and I think it might be easier to see what's going on with a simpler one. So we'll try that when we get back. All right. Well, I will try and hustle and see you in about 10 minutes. All right. Welcome back. Okay. Okay. Which one's easier? Maybe filter stage. Okay. So in this one, we're typing in an input string, and when you change it, we change the filtering. Now those are not really, well, we need them both, don't we? Filter text with folding options and compare options. So basically we're upcasing both, I guess you'd say, in effect. All right, and then output ID is set. Now here, filter text. Oh, this is annoying. Oh, because All right, so filter text is the string they edit. Now we can't put getters and setters on it, and the editing, let's see that filter view. Oh, do I have a terrible? Okay, so here, if the selected field changes, the settings changed, gets marked true. But it seems like I should tell my stage, like my stage needs to know that things have changed. And maybe this is where I'm going off. I could tell the stage. I mean, there would be nothing wrong with that per se. I guess as long as I don't touch stage.filter text. Stage.selected field settings changed equals true. Yes, that would change. So in a way, I think what's going funny is we're going through this process to go back up here and tell pipeline to reprocess. And like all that's coming from the view side, but yet the pipeline, in a way, I think the pipeline should know, right? Like if a stage in the pipeline changes, I'd like to tell the pipeline, hey, you're invalid, and not involve the view in that decision. That's a different thing. I don't know if it's kosher for me to go back in and touch the stage at this point. Let's see, I almost want to give this a method, reset output ID. And somebody should tell the stage, like, yeah, you really, you do need to change, which seems reasonable enough. Okay, let's do it. Am I making, this is tricky. Okay, I'm refactoring this to a new method. Reset output ID. Okay, and cluster stage should use it. Okay, that should not change any. Oops. I don't have protected here, right? So these errors should go away. Okay. Okay. Now, let's see if the view I think we need the analog of these two tests in our filter view. Ugh. Okay. can I change that? Yeah, the problem I'm having is like who owns this problem? I mean, it seems like I should be able to, like, from the Swift UI lazy implementer point of view, having filter text be a simple string and then it's a published field that when I edit it, my view finds out about it. That is attractive. Well, I guess the thing I'm looking for is if you are past the same input and you haven't touched your field, if you haven't reset your output ID, then you should produce the same output. Okay, so let's test that. Whoops, do I have a failing test? What's going on? Okay, thank you. A filter stage test. Okay, and I'm going to borrow this example. We'll simplify it, but the essence of it is probably okay. Okay. Sends nodes through with updated ID when filter well, is that what I'm trying to say? Okay, my stage is filter stage. My packet, I'm just going to create an empty list of tunes. Okay. I probably should clean that up too. Okay. I run my input over the packet. I call transform. My tunes.count I don't care about. I don't have any tunes. I don't do a set selection. I'm going to run the same packet. I'm going to call stage dot stage dot up reset output ID. Okay. And then I reread it. And then these IDs should not be equal. This is weak. Okay, but the corresponding test over here, same input this one does not do the reset output ID and should be an assert equal. Now the question is, how is that reset output ID getting called? And that's a view problem, unfortunately. Okay. Check that filter stage changes output ID only if output ID is reset. Weak. Okay. But what that does is it tells me if I called set outputs, reset output, where we got to, when I made a filter change, which is in filter view, okay, if I change the selected field, I'm going to do that bit. Okay. I mean, that tells me that, well, it's not going to matter to tests. Now, this is kind of what I did in the other case. I think I've got to do some reworking of this pipeline. I mean, I don't think this should be a view issue at all. If I change now, maybe I need to sync or something. Maybe I can't just edit stage.filter text, but I don't know. All right, let's run. Okay. We'll open the big one because we know we can type gal. Okay, and we'll add a filter. Title contains gal. Okay, those all do. Did we get some changes? On change called with false, true, false. Call true, pipeline ran, call with false. Call true, pipeline ran, call with false. Okay, those are good. That called with false is the reset. Okay, so it's running. The first time it's true, we do the pipeline update, we come back through with it false, and we don't do the pipeline update, but we just reflect that change because we're changing ourselves, changing the same thing we're looking at. So it should always have true, false, true, false, true, false. Okay, those all seem fine. All right, now let's change files. This is where it got weird last time. Okay. If I look for Joe, those are good. Call with true, call with false. Okay. Now, let's get a better view here. Okay. I'm going to do air. I mean, that looks right to me. This should get everything. Okay. Hi should only be one file. H is more than one. Nothing gets that. I don't see any problem here. Okay, so I do think this I don't need. I'm trusting this mechanism. I'm seeing false, true, false, true, false, true. Okay, I was worried about those falses, but I get it now. Yeah, I think this one's okay. Now, the thing I see going on is we kind of have this two-level issue. So the stages view is going to update things like that filter text. And if it does, the pipeline, well, this right now the stage sort of commits itself to changing the output ID whenever the pipeline asks for what it looks like. And that seems okay here. But the pipeline also needs to know, I mean, should that, I don't know. I think I'm wondering if maybe thinking of it as a transform at this point is almost counterproductive. Set input See, I almost think this is like set output or something. Okay, because you have the pipeline. It's going to process. I almost want the pipeline to be processing incrementally or something, you know? It's like it should find if a stage, let's say somehow the stage has notified the pipeline of their problem, of their change. Now, who would I don't know, is that a state that these views should be watching? Like, should they be watching? Should a stage just have something that says, I've changed since you last looked at me? But what would reset that, you know? I mean, these output IDs are kind of that. Like, if you publish the output ID and then the caller looks at those. Yeah, because I don't like, I don't know if I can quickly sketch this somehow. All right. So the way we're doing it is a stage. I guess I could split the view. Where's filter view? Okay, let's get filter view and whole body. Okay, so a filter, when it changes something, when it changes the text, like, I don't know, it's telling the stage, hey, I changed your text. And that seems, I don't know, it seems like we should just tell the stage, like the stage should know it, right? I mean, it's the thing that's listening to it. So this feels backwards, but I think this captures what's going on. So settings changes is kind of environment variable flag, if, as it were, that tells us if the pipeline process is out of date. So when you change something on filter, or on filter in this case, on the stage, then we tell the stage, hey, you should reset your output ID, and then you should trigger this, which is going to trigger a pipeline change. And that could change anybody. They all might have to redraw. Now, what gets them to redraw? I'm not so sure. Right? Like, how would a further down stage know that it should redraw? I guess it doesn't know. It just says you're given this output and you should change if there's output, and it knows that. Okay. What I wish would happen would be you edit something and you tell the stage, like, here's the real state of things, and that should trigger the pipeline to redo, and maybe it only needs to do like this stage down. And not need the settings changed, because every view is monitoring something. Well, it's monitoring its object. I mean, it's an observed object. So when that object changes, it should redraw, basically. And then we can force extra changes. Okay. I don't know. It was a bit of a bear getting these stages hooked up to the processes and to the views to the stages and all that stuff. And that's a bit of a dynamic process right now. We do a bunch of if tests to say which which view corresponds to which stage. I don't see a way around that. We tried several ideas. Okay, so well, where we are is that, I mean, filter seems like it's working. I don't have a problem with it. All right, let's try quantize. Now, if I quantize by 16th notes, that's probably as stretched out as any of them is. Okay, and you can see some of these repeats there because it's like the same note for 16 pulses, you know. If I change this to, well, let's change the file. Well, change it to quarters. Okay, definitely changes it. If I change it to a file, okay, that's quarters. Let's change it to eighth. I couldn't tell fast enough. Maybe a little more stretchy, but 16th should be definitely noticeably more. Okay, yeah, that's definitely different and has no problem changing. I don't know. What is it about cluster, huh? Yeah, I can change back to the small file. And it did start there. Okay, it's 16ths. Let's make it, whoops, 47th notes doesn't mean anything. Fourths. Okay, definitely different. We'll do 48ths, definitely bigger. Oops. Yeah, sorry. Okay, well, let's go with quarter. All right, those are definitely updating. So I don't have an issue there. Do we need to check the pipeline isn't running? Yeah, I don't think we do. I mean, I may be wrong, but yeah, I think it's the dendrogram is the problem. I think because this thing is only running, it gets triggered, it runs. Nobody else, we're not changing settings on file on you know, running the pipeline doesn't affect the selection or the quarter note quantization or the filtering or any of that stuff. So I don't think there's a way it's running twice. It seemed like we were not running enough. Okay, well, I think we're convinced filtering and quantizing work with sending new output when fields change. Okay. Oh, I think. But clustering is killing us here. Okay. Setting the selected elements might change. That is true. How would we prevent that? I don't even know if it means anything to prevent it. Yeah, so if you change files, it sets the initial selection, and we definitely see that happening. Yeah, does it matter? I don't know. I mean, will that change settings changed? Maybe that's the place to start looking. Okay, so cluster stage. I don't think we'll need filter view. Oops. Dendrogram view we liked. All right. Okay, so I guess our situation we're exploring Well, we could move that reset out here like we did the other one. And sorry, where's the stage? The selected elements is a viewable or monitored field, but the output ID is not published. Okay, so that should have no impact there. And let's take it out of the stage. Set selection. I don't think I'm changing anything there though. Dendrogram view. Oops, change cluster view. I guess. All right. I'm sorry, I missed. What is it? What if you don't? What does it apply to? All right, so we open the big file. Whoops. I'm going to take filter out. Open, put the cluster in. Okay. Two things selected. Oh, don't set the initial selection. Well, you need to, I guess if you didn't, well, you need to reset it if you change files, right? If nothing else. If you're saying like we could make it empty selection at first, it's possible. I mean, I'm doing this for at least a hypothetical reason, which is that seeing that there's a selected node sort of to me may prompt somebody to actually try clicking a different node. And that's what I want to happen. If they're all blank, nothing to me says like, hey, you should click me. You know, why is it the node? I think once you knew it, once you know it, but it's definitely intentional. I'm not saying I can't. Okay, sorry. We have our cluster view. I can select different things here. Let's take that out. Okay. And oh, pardon. Iguf hennos. Okay. Yeah, I'm selecting different things. Now we'll open the small file. Well, Joe Clark is selected. And this is where it falls apart. That does not change the selection. And action tried to update multiple times per frame. I'm just going to give myself a little help here. Dendrogram tap occurred. And this should be a triggering event. We set selection. Oh, wait. What did I do that? Is cluster stage? No. Cluster view. Data. Let me move that down to the tab. And the tab is the triggering event, so I feel like that has to be there, or can be there. So, I mean, okay, we're going to break here. We are getting here. This is the weird part. We're getting here. And yet we're not getting to our draw, our pipeline reset. Let's break before we do that one. Okay. Maybe even before that one. All right. This change, so this is the outermost view, or almost the outermost view. And the trigger for that, yeah, I think this is the one that's not getting run. Like, and maybe let's check this one too. Break here, but not here. Okay, so cluster view. So what we should see is the tab here. It should reset the output ID, and which means it's going to change the selection, change the output ID. It's going to set the selection to the list of elements held by that diamond. Its containing view, oh, well, that's going to change a published field. So anybody looking at it, like dendrogram view, is going to redraw. I mean, anything that depends on the published view. Certainly, content view will say, hey, settings changed. And so whole body should notice that and rerun the pipeline. Okay, I'm going to restart. The thing is, there must be some fundamental difference compared to filter and quantize, and I'm not seeing what that would be, but okay, so this is the initial one coming through. We'll just skip this. Okay. Now, put cluster in, forces a redraw, and then settings changed. Am I problematic? Okay. Okay. That changed. Now we change the input file. Let's get a trigger on that. Cluster stage set input. Okay. I'm going to continue. No, I'm going to open this. Miss ABC. Okay. That forces the input one, forces the pipeline change. All is good. Okay. Cluster stage. If input not equals, okay, let's step over. All right. So that forces the input change. Yeah. Okay. Does it trigger if the Boolean value changes? It triggers. This should trigger when the published field changes. So select elements is published. But what we have is people are, yeah, like this one, it's setting, it's sort of a double trigger basically, right? So we've monitored selected elements, it changed. So let's say, let's set our global, the world changed flag. So the pipeline will rerun. Okay. So it is a double step process, which I don't know if that's, I don't think there's anything wrong with it, but it's a little, you know, you could have easily, if I had also changed selected elements, it would set up a loop and stuff like that. But I don't think it's not allowed or anything like that. Okay, so we just opened the file, and now we want to see the right thing happen when I select. Okay, so there was my tap. We reset the output ID. We're going to call stage set selection. Okay, when I go, well, let's step in. In element IDs, out, in, set selection. Okay, so we're going to set selected elements, and that should trigger the listeners that are listening for that change. Okay, on change of selected elements on dendrogram view. Okay, now that should get up to process, right? See, this CPU 0, where am I? I guess I'm done. Okay, I did not select new elements. So maybe this is indicating something illegal. And maybe it's justified. Here's settings changed. Dendrogram view. I don't know. Oh, this is... I hate tracking through this stuff. Then we got dendrogram tap. Well, that seems kind of late in the process. He must have been there before. Okay, so action tried to update multiple times. Let's try this again. I'm just going to continue through everything. All right. Settings changed equals true gets called. Where's my process? That was whole body. I thought I still had a breakpoint there. Yeah, so we're not getting up here. One change of settings changed. Okay. Dendrogram tab. We set selection. We detect a change of selection and we set settings change to true. This is environment, right? Yeah. I don't get it. Like, why is this not called? Settings changed. Maybe it's coming through with false. Oh, this line runs. Why does this line not run? And the odd thing is, the first file opened worked. All right, now if I go back to that one, is it something about this file? Okay, I think we tried this and it did not work. All right, I'm gonna clean out some of these. No scale in ABC, and this did not update. It's a mystery. It this is not no scale in ABC's file. So I don't want. Can change settings to true if it's false. Yes. Dendrogram view. Set selection. Cluster view. Let me go back to whole body and put this breakpoint back. Okay, we open the big file. Put the cluster in. Okay. Select a bunch. They're all selected. I'm going to open the same file. So false. That's fine. And that's not. Yeah, I mean, this worries me still. I mean, the thing is, like I said, I want the pipeline to be in charge of this. And I don't know if doing that's going to be a big change, but like I think it would be an improvement. I don't know if it's a reachable thing or if it'll work. If I did that, like how does the stage communicate back to the pipeline? Well, am I going to pass the parent to it? That seems ugly. Like normally you don't want the collection items to know who their collection is, because then they can only have one collection, and it just sets up a weird a weird pattern. Now, if they just broadcast to somebody saying, I changed, and you pass in what happens to be their collection, that's a little different. Now, now how do we get there incrementally? One thing that may be another way to get at things, right now we have selection owned by this and a published field. Would it make sense to make the view own this actual set and then update it only when it's ready? I don't think that's any different. And why is it just this one? And why does it not work on the second file? Okay, we'll open this one again. Now, oh, whoa, what? Okay, let me select this set. 3133. Okay. Now, if I open this file again, no, it's still 139. That didn't reset when the file reset. Let's look at the file input again. Okay, so basically when handle result gets called, we update input. We make packet, which always produces a new thing. Now, if we read the file again, I don't see how we do anything but come into this handle result. Who calls this? The view. Okay, when the dialog finishes, if they do the open, we call handle result and we force a pipeline redraw. Yeah, I don't see how that would not do its job. I mean, that comes every time through that menu, through the button. Okay, we test it. Create gets called by the pipeline. There could be. I don't. Yeah. I mean, when you click the button, right, you're running this dialog. It's presented, it knows a type, and when it's done, it should call source.handleResult. Well, I guess I can find out, right? We can break here. This should get called every time this dialog box gets called. Okay. Yep. I think it's being called. Whoops. Well, let's make sure this is getting called every time. Yeah. Okay. Make sure if we go away and come back. Okay, so it just wrote one. Oh, 0322, continue. But no scaling again. Step over. Print it. Totally different. Okay. All right, so when this handle result gets called, it calls make packet, returns the packet. Who calls this? Should be local, right? We call it, test call it. Okay. Yeah, so the ID is changing. All right, well, that's the output side of file input stage, right? I guess we could look at the input side of cluster stage. Okay, so let's okay, we'll just print that packet ID just to keep ourselves happy. Cluster stage. Now this is a combination of input. Yes. Okay. And then cluster stage. Yeah, let's break in here. Okay, I hope that's enough to let us see what's going on. Let's run again. I feel like I'm doubly hit here because it's so hard to test view code anyway. I don't do TDD on it in general, and I'm paying the price of that. I don't trust it enough. Okay, so this one we think is fine. I'm not going to worry about that. Okay. And cluster. Okay, I should print something. Okay, let's continue. I think we saw it. New cluster, initial selection 3938 0. Okay. Those numbers are node numbers and we don't control them, unfortunately. But I think 0 is 1 and 38 is 39 and 39 is here. Okay. Everything ran. When I do this selection, I'll just continue. And I should get a new something's weird. Oh no, initial selection. Okay. And now we have the 5 selected. Okay. I'm going to change the file. We select that. Pipeline ran, new initial selection. Okay, we got that multiple update thing. We're setting the selection. And yet we're not. Okay, we're going to have to get the pipeline selection in here. Dendrogram view. Okay, we've got the cluster. Selecting 2 nodes. Should select 4. 3, 4. Okay, good. Now let's open a MISC ABC. Okay, initial selection 543, pipeline ran. Okay. Selecting this. I don't know. Okay. We selected that. It clearly believes it was doing that. So here's dendrogram view. Selecting 53416 resets the output ID, sets the selection, which should trigger setting the selection, sets these elements, should trigger the listeners. Cluster view, dendrogram view listens. No, cluster view listens. Stage.selected elements. Okay, then it says, okay, if you're not changing, let's mark you changed. And that should change settings changed. Okay. I mean, this changes that, and this changes that, and these propagating, bubbling changes, they're ugly. I don't know. I'm feeling very. It's like I want to just toss it up in the air and try a different approach, but it it completely puzzles me that it works for the first one and doesn't work when you change it. Like there's something not updating. Okay, let's look at cluster stage. If you call set input, if we're getting a new input, call superset input. If we're getting a new input, save the input as current input, reset the output ID, and print transform. Okay, so that should have happened twice. Yeah, there it is. Input stage 532. And then EF15. Okay, so totally different files. And then when he finishes his set input, he clusters. I mean, this input.tunes, it is current input at this point. Builds a matrix, sets the initial selection, 543, ran the pipeline, and then you tap this one and it doesn't. So that's dendrogram view. Tap resets selector and it sets selection. Okay, now I don't know if he sets the selection. Dendrogram view doesn't have the on change, but cluster view does. Okay, when that dendrogram tap comes, you're at a steady state. Dendrogram tap comes, you are changing selected elements. We said what we were changing now. Okay, we said we're just about to change the selection to this. I'm somehow trying to trace a path that says I'm doing an update to an update or something like that. But I don't think I am at this point. Gosh, I don't know. I don't like this place. It works so well on a file by itself, but that second file, it screws it up. And if you go back to the original file, it stays screwed up. How is stage not known here? So weird. It's like the debugger doesn't know stage is here at all. All right, I'm going to try an experiment. Okay, if no, what seems to be not happening, we set the selection and yet we are not, sorry, we are changing the settings change to true, and yet the whole body thing is not being triggered. Okay. Where are we? Okay, we set the stage. Oh, settings changed was false. It was already true. Okay. Somebody's not resetting this. Now, whole body does. Let's see those updates. Let's try this one more time. Okay, can I say... He doesn't have access to settings changed. Subject, current value. Can't I change that? Okay. Well, nothing more printed. Okay. I'm going to take this line out. Try disablling on change for selected elements. Okay. No scale and continue. Okay, cluster. All right, now well, there's that double update. Because we're triggering it right away. It's not the initializer. Right, it's set input. Okay, so when the input changes, we call parent's version of this. It sets the input, resets the output ID. Then we come in here, and while we're still updating because of the process, we force a new selection, which right away, that's the double update. Okay, so I think you may have mentioned this before, but we come in, open the original file. There's no selection to worry about, I guess. But on the second file, for sure, you come in, we've changed the file, so we're calling the set input with a new ID. And he says, okay, I will change the input, but by the way, I want to change the selection, and that triggers another update that should eventually get back to the process update. And I think maybe that one, I think this bool action updated multiple times is probably the thing that's clicking in and saying, I'm not going to do that. Does it make sense? I don't know. I feel like this has just not been productive today. We did get a few things checked and pushed in and stuff, but I'm getting so balled up on this one. If assuming this problem is unbearable to it, and he says, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to trigger that same one again. Understandably, I guess. Because really, it's like an initialization. It's really like I had done this at setup time, like here when it's initialized, it defaults to setting that up. That explicitly does not trigger things, and like it's almost like I need to do that same thing. Now I don't know if I can turn that off. Let's see. Can I prevent a published property from updating in Swift? Coalesces events. Yeah. Yeah, this is more the combined framework. I kind of want to avoid that. I shouldn't need it. Oh, will set. Yeah, that's something. I forgot about those. Now maybe that's more like it. If I say will set, what do I want you to do before you're going to set these things? I really want you to do that reset. Reset output ID. Okay, and I'm going to take that off of dendrogram view. Now, I don't know. That's not going to change that. It's only reset. It doesn't address this. Do I need to queue it? All right, I don't think this part's doing anything. Dispatch. Gotta spell it right, I'm sure. Dispatch. So this, yeah, this is not import foundation. Is that? Yeah. Excuse me, main queue. Well, this is. Well, I do want this on the main queue. I just want it done later. Well, let me try it. Schedule a block asynchronously for execution and associate it with this. Okay. I don't know if this is a good direction. You should trigger update flag in stage and check at the end. Yeah. Yeah, I think the problem is trigger update in stage and check at the end. So this is happening because we're already in the middle of changing it. And now we hit this one and we say, oh, now I know I'm changing it, but I want to also change this. And that also would trigger a change, a event coming through. All right, but let's see this, that we only have time to really do one thing. So don't know if this will. Okay, and I'm going to start cleaning out breakpoints. Okay, so that one goes in fine. That one, I think we've been trusting. That, okay. So the first selection is fine. Okay, now we open the other file. Ha. Okay, I hate it. But I think it's being done for the right reason. I think in effect, rather than trying to capture it and wait, we're saying, oh, I know I know I need to do this new update, and if I don't do this, it's going to try and do it while I'm in the middle, and I'm going to get the complaint and all that. And now I just say, okay, do it later. And so it eventually happens after we've done the update. So its process is being called again. Okay, so pipeline started, pipeline ended. Yeah, so I think the selection... No, it's not the selection that was the problem. It's the new one. Right, so I think... I think this one is the update. I guess I took out the print that printed like initial selection was X. Okay, but I think that would have normally happened in here. And now we're definitely getting the pipeline on these things. Okay. I'm going to take out these prints and call it a wrap. No. Find print. Just the text. Yeah. I know that there's truth in that. Okay, I don't want these. On the other hand, there's complexity in here I'm not super fond of, but I think seeing that double dispatch in the same thing, which is definitely a no-no. I guess I didn't think it was quite so much of a no-no, but I can understand that it is. And we saw something that says, well, at least some Stack Overflow claim that it is relevant. So, yeah. But that kind of stuff, checking the multiple queues and all that, that's exactly where TDD is not at its strength. Okay, nothing we did should have changed. Yeah, thanks. All right. Yeah, because we aren't there to see it. Stage.transform. Okay, we're going to pick up there tomorrow. We have these failing tests to tell us a couple of places where things are funny. And it's this. Yeah, I'm not sure how we'll get around that. Because we're pushing stuff in on the main queue, and we're not waiting for it here, and we'll need to do something to do that. Yeah, change might occur later. So I think we could set input is fraught now because it's sending out events and that. We'll do something to wait for the main queue, and hopefully that will solve that. I'm annoyed by it, but that's the life of it. Okay. Fooling with the queues is probably good. We have to do some sort of test change because that at least indicates we acknowledge that code and need to deal with it. All right. Next time, 2 to 4:30 tomorrow Eastern Time, or 6 to 8:30 p.m. UTC. Thanks for joining me, especially if you sat here the whole time like you, Mudshark. At least I feel the suffering of it. Maybe there's pleasure in watching somebody else suffer for a change instead of your own. All right. Have a good evening, and I hope to catch you again sometime. Take care. Bye-bye.